around, friends, new and old, and welcome to the POWWOW podcasts. We are your hosts, Philip
and David.
We'd like to start out by welcoming the people and friends and everybody who is joining us from the Chopped Greens podcasts. Welcome. Make yourself at home. We certainly are going to try and endeavor to do so ourselves. Thank you so much for anybody who's just joining us through our various social media outreaches and coming together to listen to what we have to offer you on this fine day, night, or is evening different, David? That's still night,
different,
right?
And yeah, whether you're in the shower or in the car, we hope you enjoy.
Yes, your favorite podcasts. Hopefully, ours is going to be your new favorite. Let's tell the people a little bit about ourselves. David, you go first.
All right, I am an international soul. I was born in South Africa and moved around a lot growing up. I've lived mostly in Europe, lived a little bit in the U.S. as well. I'm an actor, but don't let that make you think any less of me. Yeah, I'm an actor and a podcast host now, so yes. Very excited.
All right, my name is Philip Amrine, and I love to talk sports. I love watching movies and conversing about movies, which is a part of what brought us, David, together. I was born in New Mexico, raised in Arizona, and eventually moved out to California, where I met David. And ever since we've endeavored to try our luck in this podcasting world, and I feel like it's worth mentioning, David. I've only camped 3 times in my life. Can't say that I overly enjoyed the prospect or idea too much while engaged in it. How about you? Have you camped? Are you a multiple camper?
Yes, absolutely. I guess I have to make up for it. I have to carry the load here in terms of camping.
Yeah, exactly.
We kind of centered the whole podcast around that. I've been camping loads of times. I mean, I spent the first 6 years of my life in Africa and went back many times. And I've also done some camping in the U.S., so I'm an international camper.
I think my favorite part of camping was going to a father-son camp out, and the catering company made us hot dogs and hamburgers. That's the literal highlight of my camping experience. Any other time, there's always a pine cone under me when I'm sleeping, not enjoying it.
If you have a catering company, you're doing camping wrong.
And see, I would say that I'm doing camping exactly as God intended. That's the difference in this podcast.
That's called glamping, man.
I love it. I don't want to pee outside. Give me a urinal and a urinal patty anytime.
So let me explain the general concept of the podcast to you guys, because this is our first episode. This is not a sports podcast. It's not a murder mystery podcast, as fun as those are. We want to touch base with a little bit of this and a little bit of that. We want to cover the general happenings and goings-on in life in the 21st century. We think that we bring a broad perspective to certain things, both international and American, a youthful perspective. And essentially, we want to offer you a very relatable down-to-earth take on whatever we're talking about each week. If we endeavor to go on, Phil.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, and it's also not all just heavy. We aim to please and put ourselves and our bodies on the line as well through many ultimate games, through giving you a deeper look into ourselves by offering some of our favorite things, whether they be entertainment, foods, and a multitude, an assortment of things.
Yeah, between the two of us, we really do have we really are very different, but we get along very well. So I think we're well suited to hosting a podcast like this together. You may hear some cussing, but we only endeavor to be ourselves and make this as natural as possible.
All right, David, this is That Slaps. This is the concept or the part of the show. Why don't you explain it? Because I feel like this is your baby.
All right, well, yeah, this was my baby. So That Slaps, originally, I thought what if each of us could bring a song each week? Whatever song we've been jamming to that week, we can share with you guys. But you know what? Why limit it to songs? Um, anything that TV show, Phil, that you've seen this week, or a movie, whatever you want to bring to the table to recommend to our listeners, you can bring. And if it slaps, bring it to the table and recommend it to our listeners. So why don't you go first? What do you got for us this week, Phil?
All right, so mine is a little bit themed. I feel like I'm going to try and aim each week, each episode, to try and theme around what the episode either is in its macro perspective or what it talks about. While we're going to be getting to our main point here soon, I think that I'm going to take it as a beginning for us, a new beginning. So my song that slaps is called At the Beginning by Richard Marx and Donna Lewis. You might remember it if you ever watched Anastasia. It's one of the multitude of songs from it. I know.
Years ago.
Years ago. It comes around. I am something of an old soul, and I do have nostalgia takes. This is going to be one of them. Well, go listen to it. You're going to make fun of me, but you're also going to remember the song and have it going forward in your life. You're welcome. Enjoy the 80s, or I think that's 90s. That slaps.
All right, I've actually been listening to this for some weeks now, but it's definitely, when I was looking through my Spotify, it's the one I wanted to bring to the table. It's called Critical Mistakes by 888. This is the only song that I listen to from them. I need to check out more. But it definitely slaps. I've been listening to it with my sister a lot. Every time it comes on, the lyrics go, "I want a house on a hill by the ocean." And my sister and I look at each other every time. We're like, "I want a house on a hill by the ocean." So yeah, it's a good song. We jammed to it a lot. I think you guys should check it out. All right, so this is our first episode, and what else could we talk about this week? Especially since I think most of our listeners are U.S. based, and even if you're not, this week is the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Now,
baby.
don't worry, don't panic. We're not gonna break this down in detail and talk about sports tactics and all that. Like, if you're not a sports person, we definitely want to include you in this discussion as well.
You don't need to know who Brett Favre is in order to listen to this episode. We're not going into detail whatsoever of the Super Bowl. We're just going to kind of pussyfoot around it and see if we can just have some fun little topics about it, since it's topical.
I'm not even a football guy. Like, this is not where I live, guys. The football is, I do love it. Like, I've definitely come to love it, especially after living in the U.S. But I grew up with rugby, so I'm coming at this, with some fresh eyes, I suppose.
Yeah. So why don't we start with our first section of this? I think we both agreed that this year's Super Bowl will be very interesting. It's hosted by The Weeknd. No, not, Saturday and Sunday. We're actually talking about the performer, the artist known as The Weeknd. If you somehow have at all been watching football this entire season, well, at least for the last 4 weeks, you know that, of course, The Weeknd is performing this week. And I have an interesting angle to attack this, David. So it's the halftime Super Bowl show is notorious for giving a boost or a bump to its halftime performer, whether it be a band, whether it be a single artist. And it's certainly moved more poppy since younger years. But if we look at who is it, Madonna, back in 2012, she got about 1,000 plays on the week before the Super Bowl. Once she performed during the Super Bowl, she got about 16,000, and then she still had a little bit of a layover with 11,000 plays post-Bowl. This is according to Billboard. Beyonce, of course, was huge beforehand, had 2,000 plays, moved to 4,000, and it had a strong after effect to 6,000. And then, of course, Bruno Mars probably had the biggest bump of all back in 2014, going from album sales 15,000 to the week ending January 26th before the Super Bowl week.
You know, I wonder in those years if it had anything to do with how long it took before the rest of the world saw the show and then started. Maybe it's maybe there's that delay because of a lot of the world doesn't watch the Super Bowl, but they will see the halftime show once it's on
Yes.
YouTube.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so, again, Bruno Mars had 15,000 albums in sales before the Super Bowl, 42,000 in the time span that the Super Bowl took place, and then, of course, carrying that over to 81,000 post the Super Bowl. So I wonder.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's really, really strong. I wonder, Hoffman, do you know who, I mean, I assume you've heard, do you know a lot about The Weeknd? Do you know a lot about his library? Have you heard? Would you say that you're really familiar with him? Is this going to be a new artist for you?
No, I mean, I guess no, not new. I've certainly heard several of his songs. He's not someone I listen to a lot, I guess. I loved Pray For Me, and then the more recently, what is it? It's called In Your Eyes. That song's so good. I'm actually really excited. I love the thing with The Weeknd is that as soon as his song starts playing, like any one of his songs, you can instantly hear, like, he's so unique. Like, you can instantly tell that it's The Weeknd. There's like, he's just got. I like the sort of '80s vibe that he brings. I listen to a lot of '80s music, so yeah, no, I'm definitely excited, and it's a different flavor to last year, certainly, and even like previous years. It's not gonna be Lady Gaga jumping off the roof. Probably not. I mean, in a sparkling leotard, could you see The Weeknd doing that?
No,
I
don't. That's part of my intriguing factor of this particular halftime performance. He's not really he's probably the least performer-esque that we've seen since a lot of the rock bands. He doesn't really dance. He offers a lot of visuals. I know that
I've never seen any of his live shows, so I couldn't tell you.
I've seen a few. And I will limit it to a few. And I know that I think it was the VMAs recently, he had a big blow up of why he was going through the red carpet with bandages all over his face, and then it turned out that he unwrapped them for his performance, and it looked like he had the Squidward handsome man face. And so we all think it wasn't real, but we just want to confirm that during the Super Bowl he might do something like that again. But it is going to be, oh geez, we always try to have alarms here, and I just let one go. I apologize.
Gosh.
But
yeah,
gosh, first episode, rookie mistake. I apologize.
Yeah.
Anyways, but he will be the least performance-esque. Even somebody like Maroon 5.
Well, well, Maroon 5. That's what I was gonna bring up. They were like, that was not my favorite halftime show. Like,
no, and it sucked.
I think it followed Lady Gaga, and Lady Gaga was
the
best that I've seen. Because I didn't see any of those. I didn't watch Beyonce. I think I saw clips.
Did
of
you watch
Beyonce
J-Lo and
Katy
Shakira?
Perry. Oh yeah, so everything in the last 5 or 6 years I've seen.
Okay, so you've seen J-Lo and Shakira.
That,
that's probably
I may
the
have seen
biggest
clips. Like, I've seen Left Shark,
one.
but I don't think I watched the whole show.
You know what the most impressive feat during a halftime Super Bowl show was Madonna shuffling in like these go-go boots. She is like, that every day I'm shuffling. She's shuffling with LMFAO, which, trust me, that band aged tremendously well. But anyways, that actually truly is one of the most impressive feats I've ever seen during a halftime show. Go Lady Gaga. But to reset back to Maroon 5, I think
you said Madonna. Go Madonna.
Okay, well, Madonna is probably the highlight of the performances. Probably its top three are easily Bruno Mars and Beyonce when they collaborated on Coldplay's performance, which nobody remembers that was actually Coldplay. Shakira, J-Lo, and then Madonna. Madonna are probably the top, or excuse me, Lady Gaga. I'm sorry, Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga. Those
are probably the top
incredible.
Three. So I'm intrigued to see.
You know what? J-Lo was really great last year. I really enjoyed that.
J-Lo, Shakira. They combined together.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued to see what The Weeknd can provide us with. He's more in line he's not particularly a well-vested dancer, so I'm interested to see what other elements he can bring along. I think that there are rumors that he's going to have Ariana Grande come in and perform. He's going to
Wow,
have,
yeah.
because they've collaborated. There are other rumors, of course. Lots of betting sites going wild with the prop bets. But yeah, I am looking forward to it. I know my recent Super Bowl halftime. What's the opposite of a success? A disappointment was Maroon 5, as it was for anybody
Yeah.
who didn't want
I absolutely
Yeah.
agree. Yeah.
It was so disappointing. But let's see how will COVID affect this Super Bowl specifically, David? I'll tell you the number one glaring one from a sports perspective is that normally the Super Bowl is filled out to the max with uber rich fans who act the least fan like, and therefore it becomes something of a corporate event where the true fans are sitting at home watching the thing, and every business who's done well and had a job well done gets here you go, here's a little sweet for you, by giving gifted to the Super Bowl, outside of friends and family that happen to snaggle a Super Bowl ticket here or there. But this year is actually
Right.
quite different, because we see that I believe it's somewhere around the vicinity of 7,000 first responders are going to be gifted an experience to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Already vaccinated first responders.
Already double
So,
vaccinated. Yes.
yes. So that's how that's what they're doing to keep it as safe as possible. And I also believe that that they're actually bringing in. I think each team got an allotted amount of tickets to send vaccinated healthcare workers from their city
Right.
to the
Right.
Super Bowl as well. So I think it's a. I didn't know how they were gonna, because I knew that they were not gonna do the Super Bowl in front of no fans. Right?
Yeah.
Especially since it's Florida and Disney World is open. So I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was wondering how they were gonna do it safely, and I think it's
they
a great
are.
idea.
Yeah, I think they are allowing something along the lines of 22,000 fans in there normally. I think, having watched the Super Bowl and being a fan of the Super Bowl, one thing that I'm going to miss is usually that there's this big artistic moment whenever the Super Bowl kickoff, which is in layman's terms just when the game starts. They all line up and they're getting ready to kick the football. There's usually this big picture or big video portrait of all these cameras flashing all throughout the stadium, and it's just bam, 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 and it's all across the stadium, and it's such a picturesque moment that I'm going to miss that, and having a
Yeah.
full audience-driven Super Bowl in there. But COVID restrictions
So wait,
are
so
what
you're
they
saying
are.
you've been to a Super Bowl before?
No, 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 no. I'm just saying, whenever
Oh,
the
okay.
camera pans out, it's
Right,
they usually know
okay.
to create
I was
this.
gonna say that's amazing.
Oh no,
I really want to go. I really want to go to the one in LA next year.
yeah. The stadium.
Good luck to me, right?
Yeah, I know that stadium is the crown jewel, the current crown jewel of the NFL landscape. I don't know. Maybe we'll
Right.
have a different
I mean,
discussion down the line.
in terms
on,
of global stadiums. Even it's
Oh, yeah.
an
It's gonna host-
amazing feat.
oh yeah, it's going to host an Olympics here coming up at some point. I'm sure of that.
it'll likely be the site of a FIFA World Cup final as well, because that's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I think 2026 is the U.S. Shared with Mexico and Canada, and it could host any number of sporting events, but it's supposed to, for now, host a Super Bowl every 5 years, especially since obviously there's 2 NFL teams based there. So
Oh yeah.
but anyway.
But again, without getting too much into the weeds, it'll be interesting to
Yeah.
see a Super Bowl. This Super Bowl will definitely stand out whenever we look back in time and history. When we see, hey, the past Super Bowl winners, they usually have this picture of Tom Brady when he was won his first Super Bowl. He has his hands clutching his head in disbelief over winning the Super Bowl, and you have all these Super Bowl winning moments just encapsulated in history. This will be definitely an aberration of Super Bowls where whoever hosts it, probably there's going to be some form of masks in there. I know that it won't be all around for sure, but it'll be interesting to see, masks, not a lot of audience members out there. There'll still be confetti. They'll try and make it do what they can with it, but it'll be interesting in that regard.
Yeah. Let me tell you about my first Super Bowl.
Okay.
So
The first Super Bowl you watched.
Yes. The first Super Bowl I watched was the year. I think it was the year before. I had tried to watch them before. I think I got like into the first quarter a few years before this. But it's obviously living in Europe. It's in the middle of the night, so I fell asleep. The first one that I actually watched all the way through, I was committed to it, was Tom Brady with the Patriots against the Atlanta Falcons, and that would have been 2017, so the 2016 season. And I was so excited by that point. I don't know what got me into it really, but I was excited. And there's three things: there's the game, there's the halftime show, and there's the commercials. Because the commercials really are their own thing, right?
Oh,
yeah. Do you still get excited by the Super Bowl commercials?
I think that I would normally, and I still kind of look forward to them, but the invention and proliferation of social media has really kind of soured the commercials for me, because a lot of them either spoil their own commercials or they push them before the Super Bowl. I think my most favorite campaigns for commercials going forward are the ones where they make it a journey, where it's like, I don't know, like the Folgers peanut one is quite an enjoyable journey. I don't, whether or not you agree with the death or whatever, I enjoyed that. On Twitter, they're like, something big's happening. The first commercial comes along, and it's the death of Mr. Peanut, and then at the end, there's a baby peanut. Like, those journeys, I enjoy that.
Yeah,
but
do you remember the Bud Night, thing? It was so dumb, but like I enjoyed it because
memorable.
Like throughout the game, it takes you on a journey, and it's part of the fun. I sat down. Yeah, I remember sitting down. I had a friend over. It was just the two of us. We were the only ones who cared enough to stay up. I don't think he liked it as much as I did, but that was the thing. We tuned into a UK broadcast of it, and it was none of the US commercials. So I had to go into like an online illegal stream. Whoops, am I incriminating myself? To get the full US experience. And I've watched the Super Bowl every year since. This year was the first time I actually followed the whole season religiously. And so I'm actually I'm more excited than ever, even though it is a bit of a,
you don't have a rooting interest.
It's not going to be quite the same. Well, no, it's not going to be quite the same. I was really going for both the LA teams at the beginning of the season, and certainly the Rams even up to when they lost to the Packers.
Yeah.
So I've gotten myself invested, and that's the thing. Like, you can't really get into a sports competition, without having someone to support, I don't think.
Yeah. So my first Super Bowl story, or how I came to watch this one, I was younger, and I was at a church potluck, as it was, for the Super Bowl. It was an event, and I was with my mom and dad, and both aren't sports fans. I had largely grown up for the majority of my life until I was about 13, 14, not a sports fan. And so I had gone to the Super Bowl, and it was the one with New Orleans and the Indianapolis Colts, Peyton Manning and Drew Brees. And while everybody was in the kitchen waiting for the commercials, just gabbing about everything that could possibly happen, I actually watched the game because I was like, well, I'm stuck here. I'm the only kid here. I might as well watch the game. And I didn't understand what was going on, but I so enjoyed the artistry and command that was so present with at least Peyton Manning. He's really noted for this, where he's just barking out orders, and it's all happening in so regimented a response, where receivers are going here, he's talking, he's pointing, and you can just tell he looks like a maestro working his way through this game. And it was so alluring to me to see that level of sportsmanship and artistry on display, that's really what got me into football, which then bled into basketball, which then bled into my love of sports overall now. And I think it's really burnt a healthy competitive fire within me to keep on going with games and competitions. So I'm excited for the game this weekend, as I'm sure you are, Hoffman. And
well, before we move on, do you think these are the right teams in the game?
Oh, yeah.
For people who haven't followed the season,
I think, especially for people that have not followed the entire season, just for legacy, this Super Bowl